Welcome to the HFY Tales channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care.
The marketplace buzzed with a cacophony of alien dialects, accompanied by vibrant colors and scents that assaulted Camilla's senses. She stood amidst towering stalls draped in shimmering fabrics of impossible hues, feeling utterly out of place on this strange world. Her heart raced, an exhilarating mixture of fear and wonder coursing through her. The alien sun hung low on the horizon, casting a surreal glow over the throngs of seemingly sentient beings who haggled over goods that only existed in dreams. Camilla had come to this planet in pursuit of knowledge, a passionate explorer seeking to unlock the secrets of alien cultures. But now, her pursuit felt naive. She was lost in a reality that was darker than she could have imagined. Suddenly, a powerful presence made itself known, parting the crowd as if it had been scripted. The alien Tyrant emerged, a tall figure clad in intricate armor, radiating authority and menace. His skin glimmered under the setting sun, their shades ranging from deep indigo to almost metallic silver. Glowing, bold markings adorned his body, telling tales of conquests and power. Camilla could feel the air shift as he approached, a sudden chill creeping up her spine. Intimidation oozed from his aura, sending whispers through the crowd. She watched as the spaces before him cleared, all lesser beings bowing in deference to this ruler, a stark reminder that she was a mere outsider. There was something undeniably captivating about him, a dangerous allure that made her pulse quicken despite her instinct to flee. Without warning, a group of street mercenaries lunged at Camilla, their intentions clear. Panic surged through her veins. She turned to run, but strong hands caught her wrists, pulling her back into the throng. Time stretched as she fought against their grip, but it was futile. Within moments, she found herself shackled with chains that felt like a cruel necklace around her neck. In the bustling chaos, the tyrant paused, turning his piercing gaze toward her. His eyes were unlike any she had seen, brimming with both contempt and intrigue. "Take her," he ordered, his voice deep and commanding, echoing in the open air. The mercenaries exchanged glances, their expressions morphing from hunger to excitement. Camilla's heart sank. She was powerless, uprooted from her ambitions, and thrust into the role of a commodity. As she was dragged away, the tyrant's gaze lingered on her. Questions swirled in her mind. Who was this creature? What power did he wield? And what awaited her within the dark halls of his palace? With one last haunting look, she was pulled from the marketplace, her world spinning into shadows, leaving her to contemplate what horrors lay in store. The palace was a stark contrast to the chaos of the marketplace. As Camilla was ushered into the dimly lit corridors, she felt the weight of despair crush her spirit. Dark stone walls, smooth and imposing, closed in around her, and she could feel the chill emanating from the very foundation. Flickering torches cast macabre shadows, each flicker whispering tales of oppression and submission. Camilla's heart raced as she was led into a vast chamber, lined with ornate furnishings that held an eerie elegance. In the center, a long table sprawled, covered with lavishly embroidered fabric. It was beautiful, yet she felt an overwhelming sense of foreboding that wrapped around her like a shroud. The walls were adorned with trophies of war, masks, weapons, and the relics of those who had come and gone. Much like she had, her new captors, the slavers, seemed to revel in her unease. They laughed and jeered among themselves, sizing her up as if she were a beast to be tamed. Their eyes were hungry, feasting on the uncertainty etched across her face. She stood there, stripped of her freedom and dignity, feeling like a ghost in a world where she was utterly invisible. Days turned into a blur of work and despair. Camilla found herself confined to the duties of a servant, cleaning and cooking for the tyrant and his guests. Each encounter with her new master sent shivers down her spine. He loomed before her like a dark omen, stern and mighty, his gaze piercing. She learned to avoid him as much as possible, bowing her head in submission when he commanded attention. In time, Camilla began to forge a fragile bond with another slave named Zerish. Zerish was an alien with emerald skin and striking features, gentle yet resolute. He had been discarded by the tyrant as useless. Yet he remained fierce in spirit, offering Camilla kindness when the world around them felt dark. "You have fire in you," Zarish said one evening as they scrubbed the floor side by side. His voice was soft, laced with an unfamiliar warmth. "Do not let it extinguish. There is strength in survival." Camilla shared her story with him, revealing her background as an explorer from Earth, her dreams crushed under thick chains. Zarish listened intently, his empathy a balm to her pain. He educated her about the tyrant's rule. To survive, one must learn the inner workings of the palace, the politics that governed their lives, and the fragile balance of power. Days turned into weeks, and each moment doubled as a lesson on resilience. As Camilla learned where to navigate the treacherous undercurrents of palace life, a small sense of freedom began to bubble within her. She stood taller, her resolve hardening, but her heart still weighed heavy with fear of the despot she served. One fateful day, while carrying a tray of extravagant canapes to the tyrant's dining hall, she accidentally stumbled, sending the food crashing to the floor. The room filled with stunned silence, all eyes turning to her. The tyrant's gaze fell upon her, simmering with rage. "How dare you disrupt my feast?" he thundered, his voice echoing like thunder in the opulent hall. Camilla fell to her knees, anguish flooding her veins. I'm so sorry, my lord. It was an accident." The other slaves flinched at the wrath infused in his tone, anticipating punishment. Camilla braced herself for the worst, trembling as she awaited his judgment. The air around her thickened with tension, and she could only imagine what horrors lay in store. But to her shock, the tyrant merely stared, his expression unreadable. For a fleeting moment, there was a flicker of something, perhaps curiosity or intrigue. Then he turned away, dismissing her with a wave of his hand, leaving her breathless and bewildered. That single moment changed everything. As she stood there, heart pounding with relief and confusion, she dared to hope that perhaps her presence in this world could evoke more reactions than fear and scorn. Days passed since the incident in the dining hall, and though the tyrant had not punished Camilla for her blunder, the unease lingered. In the oppressive atmosphere of the palace, she could sense that her precarious position teetered on a knife's edge. Each day was a struggle, but with Zarish by her side, a glimmer of hope began to illuminate the shadows of despair. Zarish had become her confidant, sharing stories of the tyrant's past, the battles he had fought, the enemies he had crushed, and the fear he instilled not just in slaves, but in the entire alien populace. "He commands loyalty through fear," Zarish explained one evening as they prepared food. "But beneath that armor, I wonder if there exists a heart-craving connection." Intrigued, Camilla pondered his words, grappling with the idea that perhaps beneath the tyrant's callous facade lay a more complex truth. This revelation ignited her curiosity. Could understanding him be the key to her survival? Driven by this newfound determination, Camilla began to watch the tyrant more closely. During the day, she would subtly observe him from afar, his interactions with others, the way he carried himself, and how his gaze softened when he thought no one was watching. It was during one of these moments that their fates collided anew. One evening, after a particularly elaborate gathering in the Grand Hall, Camilla was tasked with tidying up. The lavish decorations around the room remained scattered, remnants of laughter and opulence. The tyrant sat at the head of the table, deep in conversation, dismissing his guests with contempt, his brow furrowed in thought. As she picked up discarded plates, fate intervened. One of the candles flickered wildly, threatening to extinguish in the gathering gloom. Camilla acted quickly, dashing to stabilize the flame before it went out. But in her haste, she bumped the table, causing a cascade of crystal goblets to topple. The sound echoed through the room like shattering glass. The tyrant's eyes snapped toward her, his expression morphing from irritation to something darker. "You again," he remarked, his voice low and dangerous. "Please forgive me. I'm clumsy by nature," Camilla stammered, feeling the heat of embarrassment flush her cheeks. But beneath her fear lay an ember of defiance. This time, she refused to cower. Sensing her resolve, a flicker of amusement crossed the tyrant's lips. clumsy, or merely careless? Surprisingly, instead of fear, she felt an inexplicable boldness surge within her. Perhaps both, but I assure you, my intentions are genuine. I want to serve you well. The words hung in the air, heavy with tension. To her astonishment, the corners of his mouth turned upward, showcasing a rare smile that transformed his severe features. Interesting. I did not take you for someone who would speak so freely. In that moment, something within Camilla shifted. The tyrant was not just a monster cloaked in power. He was a man capable of laughter and, a strange thought, a semblance of warmth. Their discourse ignited a new spark between them, intertwining their fates more intricately than she had anticipated. As weeks turned to months, these small interactions became their unsaid secret. With each encounter, the small moments of connection deepened. The tyrant began to confide in her, sharing brief tales of his past and the burdens of leadership. Camilla found herself drawn to him, battling between her instincts to remain cautious and her desire to unravel the complexities of his character. But not everyone was pleased with this change. Whispers filled the halls, and rival factions among the tyrant's inner circle eyed Camilla with disdain. They saw her as a distraction, someone who could compromise the tyrant's authority. Camilla felt the tension growing, clouds forming on the horizon as she navigated the treacherous waters of palace politics. One fateful evening, a banquet took place in honor of the tyrant's latest conquests. The chamber buzzed with laughter, but Camilla felt the underlying currents of animosity. As she moved through the guests, serving wine and delicacies, she caught whispers from the elite. Fingers pointed, eyes narrowed. The tension coiled tighter around her. Amidst the festivities, the tyrant rose to toast his victories, casting a piercing gaze at Camilla over his shoulder. It was as if he could sense the weight of danger surrounding her without her whispering a word. "Life is a series of victories and failures," he said, his voice commanding attention. "But in sacrifice we find strength." His eyes flickered back to Camilla, and for a fleeting moment, her heart seized at the connection they shared. Weeks transformed into an unsteady dance of discovery and tension. Hints of possibility ignited hope in her heart, bridging the chasm between predator and prey. Perhaps, just perhaps, they could learn something from each other in a world where darkness threatened to consume them both. The tension in the palace had reached a boiling point. Whispers of dissent grew louder among the slaves, fueled by the recent conversations Camilla had overheard when she was cleaning the grand hall. The discontent was palpable, simmering beneath the surface like an impending storm. Each day, as she served the tyrant his meals, she could feel the undercurrents of unrest brushing against her, urging her to take action. Rumors spread that a group of slaves were planning to rise against the tyrant's reign, a rebellion that could shatter the delicate balance of power. Camilla listened to Zerish as he spoke of courage and freedom, admiration lighting his eyes. He urged her to speak with the others, to encourage them that they could reclaim their agency. The idea thrilled and terrified her. In the midst of this building chaos, one night, under the cover of darkness, Camilla found herself alone in the kitchen, preparing the tyrant's evening meal. It was then that she heard the commotion outside. Shouts erupted, mingled with the sounds of feet pounding against stone. Heart pounding, she rushed to the window, feeling a knot twist in her stomach as she saw the chaos unfolding below. A group of angry slaves surged toward the palace gates, torches in hand, demanding justice and freedom. Camilla's heart raced with fear, yet a sense of purpose swelled within her. The tyrant, known for his ruthless reign, would not hesitate to crush this uprising. Within moments, the doors to the kitchen swung open, and the tyrant stepped inside, his expression dark and foreboding. "You must stay back," he commanded, his voice a low growl. The moment he noticed her standing there, a flicker of surprise crossed his features. "Let me help," Camilla urged as she felt the weight of responsibility settle upon her shoulders. She looked into his eyes, trying to convey the urgency of the moment. "You don't have to handle this alone." For a split second, the fury in his demeanor softened. "Do you think simply serving in my palace has afforded you wisdom?" he retorted, but there was a glimmer of intrigue in his gaze. "What do you propose?" "Your might cannot rely solely on fear," she replied, her heart racing. "You stand on the brink of losing control. These people are desperate, and desperation breeds chaos." The tyrant studied her for a moment, his brow furrowed as he weighed her words. "And you would have me negotiate with those who would see my downfall?" He laughed darkly. "You underestimate their wrath and my place in it." "Perhaps," Camilla whispered, stepping closer, emboldened. "But you also underestimate their longing for freedom. They're not just your possessions. They are people with hopes, dreams, and lives outside your walls. Show them strength through understanding, not destruction." The tyrant's eyes narrowed, yet there was a flicker of something deeper, curiosity, fear. He stepped back, contemplating her words. "You propose a bargain?" "Yes," she said, encouraged by his interest. "If they see a vision of a leader willing to listen, they may reconsider this uprising. But you have to trust me." A moment of silence enveloped them, raw and charged, filled with the weight of the choices they were both making. After what felt like an eternity, he nodded slowly. "Very well. We shall see if you speak truth." The two of them stepped out into the chaos. Flames flickered in the night air, illuminating the faces of the disgruntled masses. Camilla felt her heart race. She had put her fate in the tyrant's hands, but perhaps there was a chance. Hope could ignite change. As they approached the crowd, the voices grew louder, filled with anger and desperation. Camilla's stomach knotted. This was it. She could be the bridge between two worlds, between those who were oppressed and the one who ruled them. "Stop!" the tyrant bellowed, his voice cutting through the chorus of dissent. The crowd hesitated, turning to face him, confusion and anger swirling in their eyes. Camilla took a deep breath, stepping beside him, her heart pounding as she felt the weight of their expectations. "Listen," she called out, her voice steady despite the tremor within. "You are not slaves in the dark anymore. You are part of this world." She glanced at the tyrant, who was watching her closely, ready to gauge their reaction. "They've fought for change, and this is your moment," she continued. "You've shown your strength, but to endure, you must also show your heart. We are all looking for a leader who will finally listen." The murmurs swept through the crowd, uncertainty clouding their faces. The tyrant's presence was formidable, but Camilla's plea echoed with sincerity. There was a shift, anger dimmed, and intrigue replaced it as they looked to her for guidance. "Do you trust this human?" One voice called out from the crowd, skepticism anchoring the question. "Trust must be earned," Camilla replied. "But we can pave the way forward together, not as oppressors and oppressed, but as allies." For a brief moment, she saw the tyrant's expression soften. He took a deep breath, allowing her words to settle. There was a vulnerability in his stance, a flicker of something almost human. "If my people are to follow, they will do so on my terms," he announced, his voice heavy with authority. "But I will entertain an alliance." A ripple of surprise swept through the crowd. Fear waged war with hope as they contemplated his offer. Camilla's heart pounded in her chest, a mixture of dread and anticipation. This could be a pivotal moment, one that bridged their worlds in unexpected ways. As Camilla's proposal echoed in the hushed crowd, a palpable tension filled the air. The tyrant watched as the uncertainty faded into intrigue. This was a pivotal moment, their fates entwined, teetering on the edge of possibility. "An alliance it is," the tyrant declared, his voice steadying the crowd further. "But know this, loyalty will be rewarded, and betrayal will be met with swift retribution." His gaze scanned the audience, fierce and commanding. The shift in atmosphere was undeniable. The slaves were no longer mere pawns in a cruel game, but individuals with the potential to carve their destinies. Camilla felt her adrenaline surge as she collated thoughts, managing fragile hopes and fears swirling inside her. They had crossed a threshold, but the road ahead would be steep. The tyrant motioned for her to return to his side, a silent acknowledgement of their shared commitment. As the night deepened, Camilla assisted the tyrant in navigating the intricacies of forming this fragile alliance. They strategized programs to reward loyalty among the slaves, pledging to initiate fair treatment and a gradual dismantling of oppressive practices. Their connection intensified, bound together by this shared goal of mutual understanding. Yet beneath their partnership lay an undercurrent of tension, the undeniable attraction growing between them. The more time they spent working side by side, the more their conversations drifted from strategy to intimacy. Each lingering touch and shared glance sparked a heated awareness, stoking desire amidst the chaos surrounding them. One night, amidst unfinished plans and a shared bottle of wine, the conversation took on a new depth. The air grew heavy with unspoken words, and Camila felt a magnetic pull toward him, as if fate had woven their threads together. "I did not expect to find an ally in you," the tyrant confided, his voice low, eyes searing into hers. "Your tenacity is captivating." "Perhaps we are not as different as we seem," Camila replied, her heart racing with each word. "Desire drives us both, your hunger for power, my yearning for freedom. And perhaps," he said, leaning closer, "there's more than mere alliance in our connection." The unguarded honesty spilled between them, igniting tension that hung thick in the air. In an instant, the world around them narrowed to just the two of them. Camila's breath quickened as she felt the pull of inevitability, recognizing their mutual yearning. As the tyrant's gaze softened, he leaned closer, whispering, "Mating rituals among my kind are not just physical. They bind us together, intertwining our destinies." Camila felt her heart race, fully aware of the weight behind those words. "Would you trust me, Camila?" he asked, vulnerability lacing his tone. "Trust me enough to explore what lies between us?" Their eyes locked, and Camila felt a thrill race through her. The prospect of mating with this formidable figure, one who had both terrified and fascinated her, sent shockwaves of anticipation through her veins. "Show me," she breathed, heart pounding. "Let's embrace this connection." The tyranny of the palace faded away as their lips met, igniting a passion that carved through the weight of oppression. It was a union born of necessity and desire, igniting their souls as they intermingled like flames, illuminating the shadows of their respective pasts. In that moment, their worlds collided, forging an alliance that transcended power and domination. As the dawn broke, the aftermath of their union settled heavily around them. Camila stirred, glancing at the tyrant beside her, memories of their passionate night dancing through her mind. Together, they had crossed a threshold into uncharted territory, one that could forever alter the fabric of their identities. Yet reality beckoned, quickly reminding them that a fragile alliance had formed in the wake of their intimacy. The palace dynamics had shifted dramatically after the encounter, but challenges remained in convincing the slaves that this change was authentic. "Today we prepare for the council," the tyrant said, his expression more solemn as he rose to dress. "We must convey our commitment to change if we hope to gain trust." With determination etched into her features, Camila joined him, donning garments that blended their cultures, representation of their newfound partnership. The council would not only be a platform for diplomacy, it would solidify their bond, intertwining their paths further. The chamber buzzed with tension as they entered, eyes narrowed in suspicion. Camila sensed the weight of expectations on their shoulders, emotions fraught with anticipation and uncertainty. But as she stood beside the tyrant, resolute and confident, she knew they had formed something undeniable. Together, they shared their vision for a new era, one marked by cooperation, respect, and unity. The council listened intently, and slowly, skepticism morphed into contemplation. Camila's presence brought a spark of hope, showing them that even the darkest of chains could be broken. As they concluded the meeting, murmurs rippled throughout the chamber. The anxieties of change began to morph into acceptance. It was a small victory, but victory nonetheless. In the days that followed, their connection flourished amid their efforts to dismantle tyranny, creating momentum for a new path. Each challenge they faced only deepened their bond, forging them into allies and lovers amidst the tumult. As night fell upon the palace once again, Camila reflected on the changes they had sparked. The weight of tyranny had begun to lift, and while uncertainty still lingered, the prospect of growth and freedom cracked open like a fresh dawn. Hand in hand, Camila and the Tyrant stood at the threshold of change, hearts entwined as they ventured into a future ripe with possibilities. The journey ahead would be fraught with trials, but together, they could navigate the depths of both their worlds, bridging alien and human into a shared destiny. With the Council's acceptance of their alliance, a glimmer of hope illuminated the palace. Yet, shadows still lingered. Discontent brewed among the Tyrant's inner circle, those unwilling to relinquish their power and adapt to the changes that Camila and the Tyrant advocated. Camila could sense the growing unrest. Even in the midst of progress, whispers of rebellion against the Tyrant's rule persisted. The faction opposing the change was powerful, and they plotted to undermine everything they had built together. One fateful night, Camila and the Tyrant gathered in the Grand Hall to discuss the threats they faced. The atmosphere was tense, charged with an electricity that suggested danger was imminent. "We cannot neglect the dissenters any longer," the Tyrant stated, his expression shadowed by worry. "If we do not act, this progress will crumble, and will be torn apart." Camila nodded, aware that their relationship was now tied to the fates of many. "But we must show them that unity and alliance can conquer fear. We need to confront them head-on." Just as they crafted a plan for reconciliation, an urgent commotion echoed from the palace gates. The sound of clashing voices ushered in chaos, and Camila felt her heart drop. Rushing outside, they were met with a scene of defiance. Rebels clashed with loyalist guards, and the air crackled with anger and confusion. The Tyrant's heart raced, eyes narrowing with determination. "This is it. We must quell the uprising before it spirals out of control." As battle erupted, Camila stood by the Tyrant's side, her heart pounding fiercely. She couldn't help but remember their earlier discussions about duty, power, and the sacrifices they had made. Together, they battled against the tide of anger, fighting not only for their lives, but for the future they envisioned. In the chaos, Camila spotted Zarish, trying to shield other slaves from harm. Her heart compelled her to make a choice entwined with the love she'd cultivated for both her people and the man standing beside her. "Zarish!" she called out, rushing to his side as the battle raged on. "Help me! We must make them see. This is not what we want." With newfound determination, they moved through the throngs of rebels, rallying those who had risen to join the fight. Camila's voice rang out, urging them to put down their weapons, to think about a future where they could work together. "Stop! This violence will not achieve freedom," she shouted, her voice cutting through the frenzy like a noble knight's call. "We can rise together, understanding, not hatred." The Tyrant stood behind her, his presence bolstering her courage, a symbol of the alliance they forged. Slowly, the fighting began to halt as the rebels paused, assessing the situation and the passionate woman who dared to challenge their anger. Through the chaos, the Tyrant interjected with a commanding authority. "You are not losers. You are the future. Join us in cooperation or be cast aside by the heart that beats for change." Finally, the tide shifted. One by one, rebels dropped their weapons, eyes shifting from defiance to understanding. Camila held her breath as her message took root, giving life to the fragile hope they had nurtured. With unity restored, the Council promised change would come swiftly, and those who had strayed from the path would be guided back. Barriers began to dissolve, the air thick with renewed possibilities. As calm returned, the Tyrant turned to Camila, his expression softened. "You showed courage, and in doing so, you have cemented our fate." A warmth enveloped them, deeper than any passion they had shared. In the heat of battle, and in the face of adversity, they had forged a bond that transcended their worlds, a bond sealed in both love and purpose. Weeks passed, and the palace began to reflect the shifts in governance. Once a bastion of tyranny, it now stood as a sanctuary of hope, guided by the promise of unity. Camila and the Tyrant worked tirelessly, their love blooming amidst the transformation of society. The Council echoed with discussions of rights and freedoms. Old barriers crumbled, paving the way for a vibrant future. Camila often stood alongside the Tyrant, advising him with fervor and passion, balancing the breadth of human wisdom with the might of alien strength. As peace settled over the palace, Camila realized she had found not just a partner in the Tyrant but a home, a place where both humans and aliens could thrive together. One quiet evening, as they gazed out over the horizon from the palace balcony, the sun dipped low, casting a magnificent glow over their domain. If we can conquer hate with understanding, what else might we achieve? Camila mused, her heart brimming with the possibilities they had forged. The universe still holds many mysteries, my love, he replied, reaching for her hand. But with you by my side, I have faith we will conquer them all. Together, they turned their gazes toward the untamed future, hearts intertwined, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them, united in both purpose and passion.